Cool, man. Abel Pacheco, aka Abel Pacheco. Welcome to the
Yes, sir.
Capital Raiser Show, man. I'm super pumped up to have you on here. I found out about you through my friend Ellis Hammond, a person who I
Yeah.
recently met and got to network with at Best Ever Conference. Man, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, man. Thank you very much for having me. Doing great, dude. Just enjoying the day and enjoying 2020. So it's our decade. It's our
Yeah,
decade, man.
yeah, man. I love life, dude. Thanks for coming on. So I kind of wanted to find out a little bit about you. I know very limited information. I know that you're a part of the Kingdom Capitalist Club that Ellis runs or has a say in, and that you've done passively 400 doors and another 400 active. So you've transitioned from there. Prior to that, you were wholesaling houses, much like my company, Bakerson. Shout out to them for providing the podcast studio. And also shout out to the Capital Raiser Nation. Thanks for tuning in. Please give us a 5-star rating. Abel, so tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate, because I know that you were in a sales background, that you did the same business I did, which was vector marketing, aka Cutco knife sales.
Yeah, yeah. There
And
you
yeah,
go, man.
man,
Nice.
I wasn't that good at it, but I was still able to sell some knives, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess the knives were that good.
yeah. They're
But
good.
yeah, man, so you come from a sales background. How did you take your sales experience and translate it into multifamily, or what was the mindset process? I know I heard you on another podcast talk about cash flow quadrant and realizing that your business or what you were doing was really not a passive business. So tell me a little bit about that.
I understood enough, at the time that money was good. I was in IT hosting, had a sales background from Cutco, as you mentioned. So I kind of grew up in that commission only, grind it out. You had to make it happen. If you didn't make it happen in a month, you didn't eat. So I did that all the way through college here in San Antonio at UTSA. But when I started working in the professional world, I realized, oh man, I'm doing well. Same thing though. I may have had 50% of my pay was somewhat of a guarantee, so I have enough to pay the bills. But the extra, man, if I didn't hit commission, hit goal, we didn't make a full commission. So kind of amplified that a little bit more. I go, well, what if something happens to me? We're getting married, thinking about a family, and I go, well, if I don't make a check, how's my wife going to do? I better, make sure life insurance and that kind of thing. But just all these things go through your mind. And that's really I guess the root of it was, man, I was worried about, something happening where my family wasn't going to be able to have, the income that I was making. And, if I ever wanted to retire, then I was going to have to figure out some kind of passive cash flow, passive stream of income. And yeah, you're exactly right. When you think about the cash flow quadrant, it's like, well, you can be you could be an employee, you could be a business owner, but if you don't ever progress to that next spot, where if you own the business system or something to produce revenue on a constant basis, whether you're working or not, then you're always going to be stuck in that realm where you're trading time for money, and that's no good. So it was a paradigm shift. When I was I think it was maybe like I was 25, 26-ish, that I really took a leap and said, okay, I'm going to buy my first house. I was of the mindset that my best investment at that time was my house. Your first investment should be your house. And I go, okay, I'm throwing away rent money, I might as well buy a house. And did that, and then saved up as quickly as possible and bought a second single family house. And we did that, over 10 years, we did that eight times. So we just bought, a little single family portfolio. But it took me a few years, 10 years, to kind of realize it wasn't as passive as I was expecting. But the action that I took, the mindset, investing, taking those risks, taking those calculated risks, what kind of built on, over the years. And then I realized every house brought, okay, $3,600, $4K a year of passive income just wasn't enough. And, to think, how do I truly retire or at least become financially free? I don't know if I'll ever be able to sit still, on a beach somewhere for more than a week or two, maybe 3, but how to become financially free. That was really the goal. And I said, well, that was the impetus of like investing, real estate, going from professional world to where I am today. And, I was doing all of this was, I just quit my W-2 job this year. So 2020 prior, I've always had a full-time W-2, full-time, like, commission, commission jobs, commission runs. So
So the wholesaling side of your business was a side hustle while you were working. Is that correct?
well, the wholesaling actually started the same time I started kind of multifamily about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
First, it was buy and hold. So
Okay.
I bought, I held, I rented, and I managed my own portfolio. So it was just, I was a property manager. I was out there, filtering through people on Craigslist, put my house up. I go meet them at the house, sign the contract, do all the background screening, everything, and 1 or 2 houses, not a big deal. That's like, it's easy. 3, 4 becomes a little bit more, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you're like, that's a job. I realize, like, I can't do 20 or 30 of these on my own. And even the property manager, I hired a property manager, and, but I thought I was going to get away from work, and the work still travels, still finds me. Hey, make a decision on this. Hey, pay for that. And you're like, oh man, that's still not passive either. So anyways.
Okay. So you went from flipping or buying single family, and then you started wholesaling. Tell me about why you transitioned into wholesaling.
Yeah. Well,
And then I'm curious about this too, because you started wholesaling and passively investing in multifamily.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your mindset?
I mean,
let me hear about this.
well, the mindset was, I have to speed up. I have to go quickly. I have to be able to do as much as I possibly can. I have to take a lot of action. And I'm 40. I'm 40 now. I guess I was 37, 38 as all this stuff was coming in my head. And I go, man, this is not the way to do it. If I don't change something today, then nothing's ever going to be different for me in the future. My family, my friends, people around me, what's your retirement plan? And, how much I started asking them, how much do you have in your IRA or your 401k? How much do you have squirreled away? What are you doing? And I realized, man, it doesn't feel like a lot of people are well set up to actually retire before they're 60, 65, and I go, I don't want that. I don't want that for me, for my family. I don't want my children to have to do that either when they're older. And, I got set up for success. I think my mom and dad taught me hard work, discipline, persistence, positive attitude, but it was never about how to save for your retirement and how to be financially free, because they're not in that position either. So they didn't have that. So that was really the mindset was, I have to do this now. If I don't do it for myself, no one's ever going to do it. No one's going to do it for you. Government's not going to do it for you. Your friends, it's not going to happen. So my sister brought me on to like a real estate education program with Elite Legacy. It was like Kiyosaki's program, right? And she invited me. She goes, hey, I paid for the tickets. Come to the weekend, check it out. And I was like, all right, I'm in. And I'm listening to everything. And after Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was like, here's my 20K check, sign up for education. And I paid for it. At that time I wanted to do multifamily, and I go, I'm going to invest in this program because it's going to teach me what I know. It's like 95% single family. So that was where the education for wholesaling came in, from 2008, when I bought my first house, to 2018, I didn't know the world existed for like hard money loans, wholesale assignment, owner finance, creative financing. I wouldn't have even known to Google those terms or how to look for it. I didn't know those things were out there. I thought I was doing the right way because I had a little portfolio, saving my 25, 30 grand on every house and buying a buy and hold or rental property. So that's where I took the education. I took the course, got some mentorship, got some education. At the same time, I also had a mentor, a coach here locally in San Antonio, Devin Elder. From him, he was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. And I need mentorship from coaching from you as well. He showed me kind of the path from syndication side, and, kind of began my second track of education. Him, other courses, boot camps, commercial classes, corporate structure classes, some of that stuff. So
when you find David Elder, had you already passively invested in a syndication or not yet?
I did not before my buddy Devin was getting into it. He was already, syndicator operator in San Antonio. But I worked with him. I knew him. There was no speed of trust issue, right? I knew him for years. So I knew if I put 50 grand in with a buddy of mine that's doing these deals that I knew he was doing, apartment complexes, that initial fear of like, am I going to lose my money? I trusted him enough to say, oh yeah, I'm going to go in. But I did that passively because I knew I wasn't going to buy like a 100 unit plus apartment complex in the next couple of months, right? It just didn't click for me, to say I was going to be able to do that. So I said, well, I need to go feed up the single family side, wholesale, buy, flip, owner finance. I feels like I've done like one of each now, but done a bunch of wholesale deals. We do about 2 to 3 deals a month, done some owner finance deals. We've done some creative financing. We've done the hard money side. We have private investors getting in some fix and flips also. But I think where I'm at right now is like all of that requires so much work, effort, and attention. And I go do that because that's what's going to bring me, that's my active capital. That's going to bring me the next 50 grand that I squirrel away now and put it on the passive side. Take my active capital, invest it passively. The more of that I have going on, the quicker we're going to get to financial freedom. And I'm actively invested in multifamily today. I'm a general partner, principal, and manager in 392 doors today. The way I got there, though, was, I learned how to be a good passive investor, and that's what I know. And now I'm helping other people become passive as well. And then learning, it's just like I took education for the single family class, I've also taken a lot of education for the multifamily. And, I add up all my hours and I'm like 240 plus hours of work. And then a ton of podcasts, right? I don't count those. They're just, in the car, with my earbuds as I'm washing dishes around the house, whatever I can, I'll soak that in.
Abel, in regards to your active deals, your GP deals that you're now, when you first got into passive syndication, did you know that you wanted to transition into an active right off the bat and use that as a tool to learn learn the waters, how to navigate the waters, and then take that, what you received from the communication side of vetting the sponsor and understanding how they work their deals, and now with the approach that, hey, I'm going to learn how to be able to do this with my investors too, and I'm going to learn some things along the way of what I do not like and what I do like. That way I can do that.
That was, 100%. I didn't know it would happen so quickly.
Awesome.
And I didn't realize that it would be like this big virtuous cycle that I'm really seeing that we're starting to create, right? When I first got in, I took some of those education courses, single family work, right? And every person that had done more than like 20 or 30 single family deals at that moment, I met people that have done 20, 30, people that did 50 in a year, people that were doing 100 a month. Just stretched my mind, right? Every person that I talked to in that networking and that platform was like, they all said the same thing. You have to take massive action. Get your education and take action. So I knew for sure I was not going to be one of those individuals that pays for some classes and not act.
Yeah.
I was going through with this, right? So the action part was there. Now the education side, when I invested passively, I always knew that I wanted to invest in multifamily. Like since I was younger, there's another purple and yellow book that you may or may not have read. It's like Rich Dad's Guide to Real Estate Investing. And I read that one also when I was like 24. And I was expecting to read all about it, like single family, type of book. The whole thing's like apartment complexes, commercial buildings.
Wait, are you thinking of the ABCs of real estate investing?
It may be.
The one with Ken McElroy, right?
Okay, is that?
Yeah. I know both of those books, but yeah, that's the one that talks about investing in. It doesn't talk about syndication, but it does talk about investing in multifamily. I love that book. Yeah.
And I read that when I was 25, 26, 15 years ago. And again, 25-year-old kid, I was expecting to like figure out how to buy my first house, right? And it talked about it's easier to get a loan on a multi-million-dollar building than a single family. And I knew I was going to be invested in commercial real estate for sure. But, the fear starts to set in, like what people call a reality. Oh, this world, will put these paradigms on you that says you're 25, you're 26, you don't have $1 million. There's no way you're going to be able to do that. You should buy a single family house. And that ensued my 10 years of single family investing because, I didn't have the right mindset. I didn't have a mentor, a coach somebody to like get a hold of me and say, no, don't listen to those fears, move forward. That didn't come till much later. So, again, I'm 38 now, taking these courses in education. So I'm like, I'm in with the single family. I've done it 8 times. I'm going to go. But as my mentor coach on the multifamily side is doing deals, I asked him for some mentorship and guidance. And he said, well, if you're an investor, you're an owner, and you're going to be on the inside. You're going to learn it. You're going to go through the process. You got to learn by doing. So, and I directed, a 401k that I left my old job to an IRA, and I invested my first one. So I didn't feel the pocketbook or the writing a check for 50K cash. I didn't have to feel that part, but I got in and I, made the decision. So the decision's made, and I go, I am going to learn. I'm going to get my single family active capital rolling. That'll be my 50K chunks. And as I invested passively, I would learn enough through the process. So eventually I could go lead deals myself. And I still was thinking like, in like 5 years from now and like 10 years from now. It took me like a year to get in 2 to 3 deals passively. And then it took me another year to go do 392 active. And then things are working out really well. We're going to be breaking ground on a new development soon here in the future. And that's our 3rd deal. And, we already see like deal number 4 lining up right now for 2020. We're excited. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I want to talk to you about the transition into the general partnership side, but real quick, I just kind of want to catch you off guard here. So how long have you been in San Antonio?
I've been in San Antonio since when did I move here? I moved here in 2000 and
I have a few friends that live in San Antonio, man. And you
20 years roughly.
You totally remind me of my friends that live in San Antonio. The way that you smile, the way that your energy.
I love it. I grew up 20 years in Corpus Christi, Texas. That's where I'm from. 20 years here in San Antonio. So I lived, love Corpus Christi. It's a great market. Feels like I want to retire there. Great place. They're doing big things, starting to invest in the city there. But that's where I grew up. I went to Corpus Christi, Carroll. Played football there when I was younger. And then,
that's right. I heard you on a podcast going Road Runners or something like that.
Yeah, we're Road Runner, baby. We went to UTSA over here to San Antonio. I met my wife here in San Antonio when I was actually
at Cutco. I heard you talk about.
You said that, Cutco, right? Yeah. I go in college. I worked as a salesperson, flexible schedule, ran my own time. Did all the things there in college. It was really fun. Made a lot of money. But I opened up an office, and then when I was doing so, you'd go and learn from some of the other offices, like see what those district managers are doing or how they learn from it. I've always been like, I love mentors and coaches, right? So I'd go to the other offices. They were really successful. I was visiting another one, and I met my wife there. So I was like, you're beautiful. I love you. All the way. That's pretty cool, right?
Amazing.
She's now we have 2 children, 2 beautiful.
Oh,
2-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Congratulations, a 6-month-old, man. You got to send some of that energy my way, dude. I want to have some kids too. Anybody that's recently had kids and just like, hey, let me shake your hand.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. So let's go back into the general partnership. So when you were doing your first GP deal, I want to hear about what was going on through your mind. What was this process like? You had to go through a capital raise. You have to put together these documents. I'm not sure if you used the same syndication lawyer that your mentor used. What was the whole process? Because I think a lot of people that are not not actively investing in syndication deals, they're like, wow, a syndicator, to put a syndication together, man, it seems almost overwhelming. How was that process for you? Like getting all the lawyer docs, raising the capital, finding the deal, everything, walk us through that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot if you've never done it at all. Coming into a new deal, right? It's, you have to get a good legal team, and it's not a lawyer that knows real estate and somebody you've used, in the past. It's, you want an expert, someone who's done it 1,000 times. You want a team that does, syndication, raising capital, 506B or C or A, or, whatever the case is, somebody who really knows the multifamily syndication world pretty well, because it's a Securities and Exchange, commission or governed thing, right? You want an exemption, you want to know how to do it. So that's kind of the first part. And, another part is like, who's going to run your deal, or who's the property management team? Have you used them before? What are my interview questions? What should I ask them? And then you're thinking about, okay, that's who's going to help me run the deal. What about an asset manager? Someone help me with numbers, somebody help me with underwriting, somebody to help me, make sure that the deal works financially, the projections are right, our performas. And then you're like, well, okay, there's other general partners. Who's going to be the key principal? Who's going to be the managers, the members? Who's going to put down the deposit, non-refundable or refundable? Either way, that's a good grip of cash coming down. And you're like trying to put together this whole team. Well, on my first one, I didn't attempt to do all of that on my own, right? The first deal was 124 units, $7 million-ish, so somewhere in that area. And you're like, well, I'm not going to go do this deal on my own. I had already somebody who was in the business doing multiple deals. They were already, calling the shots. They already knew which property manager, which asset manager, which members, how to raise capital, how to review all of the docs. So it was very much like I was riding shotgun on a deal where somebody else was driving. And, we had a good navigator already through the process. So I would say that's the first part. If you're a first-time general partner and first-time manager or member on the deal, if it's a 100-unit plus deal, you're going to be raising capital, we can do that. I would definitely make sure you have some team members who have a little bit of experience through that process. I think it helps a lot. I know that's not necessary.
Yeah, Abel, I think it is necessary, but I have one specific question about this that you're talking about right now. So for a first-time syndicator, when they approach somebody whose coattails they're going to ride and partner with based, really right on their track record, this process, so you have some investors, you have some experience in passive, you have some track record, right? But then when you're negotiating your percentage of the property or your percentage of the ownership, how do those conversations start with somebody who's got a track record versus somebody who has not actually done an active investment? What did you end up agreeing on? Because they don't know exactly how much capital you can raise. They don't know how strong you are at certain other things, but yet you still got into the deal.
And let me go back to one thing that I mentioned, which I was talking about building this virtuous cycle about passive investing. And the way I think it was easy for me to do that with my, general partner, the lead syndicator, the person that I'm trying to show value to over the process, that, hey, I'm a good potential to be on your team, to raise capital, to help you be boots on the ground, to look at the performance, to look at the investment, all the things that we're trying to do to build value. Is I invested with this individual once, twice, and my wife got in a third deal with him passively. So I look for now, as I'm raising capital, I'm looking for individuals that want to be general partners on deals in the future, that also want to start the way I did as a passive limited partner investor, because I know if they invest with me once, twice, three times, and they're working with me anyways, I want to be able to take them through the process, coach them through if they have any questions. All my investors know, man, they can call me, schedule some time. I'll walk through them, any of the details that I know or any of the process, because if they want to learn and be really active limited partners or active passives, then eventually they're gonna know the business. And if they're in that position in the future, to provide me value, let's say I'm finally, the lion's share on the deal where I need more, partners. I don't want to just choose anybody that, is trying to tell me that they can provide me value. I'd rather have another general partner or an active member in my deal, somebody that I already know, I already worked with, I already trust. They've gone through the education, they've worked with me. And now, I can also tell my investors when they ask me, who's this other person on the line? Who is this new partner you've worked with? Have you been partners with? I'm like, yeah, man, I've partnered with them on 1, 2, or 3 of my past deals. They're limited partners or they're passive, but they've been learning with me through the process. And that was the unintentional thing about me being a limited partner. This was not planned, but the very, virtuous part about it, the unintended consequence of me investing with the same general partner, the person that I knew, liked, and trust, was I was learning from him. He was telling me what to do. I was acting. He told me, hey, you want to raise capital in the future? man, go do, build your website, put it up now, start talking to investors today, because you don't want to wait till you're finally a general partner. And then, then you're trying to raise capital for the first time. So start today. And I was doing all of the things that he was saying and taking education. So when it came to, hey, that time, and he's like, hey, I've got another deal, it was not me giving him a spiel of my value. Like, I think he saw my value over the last year and a half. And I was partnered with him on a few other deals. Oh, and also, just some tactical items. People like, what can I do today? Man, I helped my partner start a meetup where I invited all of my network, all of my people. Like, I co-hosted that meetup in San Antonio. So it was like I invited him to all my network. Immediately, we ran in the same circles, but there's probably people that came because of me. And I think that's got to provide some value. That was before I was a general partner, before I was raising capital. I'm like, I didn't think about, I'm going to send him my network and then I'm not going to be able to raise capital. I don't have that mindset. It's more of, how can I help my friends, family, people that I know succeed the same way that I am? Because I'm not in a scarcity mindset. There's enough for everybody, plenty to go around. Let's help enough people succeed. And that was one of the things that we started building. It started at 5 or 6 people, then it was 20, 30. Then it was like, man, our last couple were like 70 and 65, and it's really growing now. But tactically speaking, that was value that I was doing before I even became a general partner on this deal. I brought people to him, sat down with them at lunch to kind of introduce him. That was before I was a general partner. So I think those things are, would provide value. So it was not.
Yeah, I hadn't even contemplated that perspective. I think that's fascinating. I was almost thinking of it from if I've never been a passive investor and I want to become an active investor, which is my position. I've never been a passive investor, but now I want an ownership share of these deals as I raise the capital for them. And this process of how do you negotiate what percentage of it? My lawyers come up with some pretty cool concepts that I've talked about on other shows. But hey, I wanted to bring up a word that you used, or a small phrase, abundance mentality, and bring it and tie it into this concept of faith and kingdom capitals. I had Ellis Hammond on a show, and we started talking about his mindset background originally, how in religion, a lot of times wealth is shunned upon or not looked at as something that you should strive for. And he had to go through a mindset transition where wealth consciousness became important. But you mentioned, I want to find out, you're part of the Kingdom Capitalist group. Tell us a little bit about that group, and tell us about the mindset of that group and why you're a part of it.
So it's a mastermind, and just like any other real estate mastermind or health mastermind or wealth mastermind, group of individuals, we all collectively put our own value of our own knowledge and insight into, and it happens to be centered, I would say 90% of it around multifamily syndication. Some of it is also just business and entrepreneurship. Some great advisors are part of the group as well that are teaching us, right? So, we get together, a Zoom podcast, things like this, or Zoom, and then we're learning from the advisors. They're telling us how they went from, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 50. Some of them, man, some of the advisors are like, or the people that have been coaching us, teach us, $100 million guys, $150 million businesses. And it definitely will stretch your mind, right, on what's possible. But at the core of it, Kingdom is a Christian mindset. We're a kingdom capitalist. We're entrepreneurs. And I think all pointed back to, our faith, very much Christian and believers in that. And so when I think of abundance mindset, so my company is 5TCRE, 5 Talents Wealth Incorporated, my official corporation. And that's drawn directly from Matthew 25 and 14, which is the parable of the 5 talents. So if you're not if you've never read that parable, it basically says, servant and master, servants are working for the master, and the master is going to take a trip for who knows how long, years or whatever. So he leaves. Well, he gives one of them 5 talents, one of them, a few talents, one of them 1 talent. And then he comes back after some period of time, it's kind of assumed, a few years. And he says, hey man, how did you do? He's talking to his people. And the guy that he gave 5 talents, talent back then was it was a big number of a big dollar amount, I don't know, equated to thousands of dollars, whatever a talent was, the equation of it, in the dollar today, right? Well, that talent, he goes, hey, you gave me 5. I made you, I doubled that. I made you 10. And the master goes, man, well done, good and faithful servant. He goes to the one that had 3 and, how did you do? And he says, well, you gave me 3. I doubled that. I made you 6. And he goes, well done, my good and faithful servant. And then the servant that only had 1 talent, he said, how did you do? And he goes, well, I knew you to be a hard master, a person that made money, where I don't think you could have. And I didn't want to lose that money. I know you worked really hard. So I went and buried it. I put it in the ground. And here it is. Here's your 1 talent back. And he goes, and the master goes, man, you wicked servant. You could have at least given it to the money lender. He would have at least given me a percentage of interest on this. But instead you hid it and buried it. So he gave that 1 talent and gave it to the guy that had 10. And so it's a parable. You can look at it in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. One of the literal ways that you can look at it is, man, I've given you these resources. I've given you this knowledge, education, talent, or money, or whatever you want to call it. What did you go do with it? Did you go and make it earn, put it in the marketplace? Did you go double that for me? Man, because that's the abundance mindset, is when you go sow that money into the market. And when we do, I mean, we're literally raising, millions of dollars right on these deals. We're putting everyone's capital together, putting it in the market, improving a community. People get better housing. The rents go up. People have to go to work. We're paying checks. It is an amazing economy boost. And that everyone in the community that we invest in, all of us win. The housing, the people, the renters, the investors, the economy, all those experts in that team, property managers, asset managers, the lenders, everybody makes money when we're doing this. So that abundance mindset is, man, if we're not scared to do this, you can keep going and create more wealth. And at the end of my time, because I am a Christian, I want God to say, hey, man, what did you do with the talents I gave you?
Yeah.
I want him to say, well done, my good and faithful servant.
I've heard that story before. I didn't know exactly which one you were talking about when you first mentioned it, but I've heard that story. I'm not sure if it's in multiple places in the Bible, but I started hearing that story way back when I was in 7th or 8th grade, maybe even earlier, because I went to a Christian school or Catholic school. St. Francis Xavier, shout out to them here in Phoenix, Arizona. One thing that I wanted to mention, and you reiterated it, all of the real estate ancillary services, the effect that you have. I wanted to mention that multifamily is so appealing because of the contribution that you have. It's literally 10xing or 100xing your contribution versus a single family dwelling because of all the real estate ancillary providers. When you're coming from an approach of self-actualization and becoming a better you and having a bigger impact in the world, when you take your business and your mindset and your real estate and you apply it to multifamily, the effects that you have are so huge. So I really like that aspect about multifamily. I guess that's one of the reasons I'm so attracted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and jump into, I have this new segment that I've been introducing. Shout out to Ellie Perlman, who I stole it from, and I'm going to be going on her show here in about 20 minutes. So that's pretty exciting.
Nice.
Let's go into.
Tell her I said hello. I watch her or a couple of posts from her as well and try to soak up what I can.
Awesome. Yeah, she's amazing, man. I saw her at Best Ever Concert. All right, so let's go into the lightning round. What is your favorite movie?
Man, I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know how many times I've watched like The Outsiders. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with it. All the great ones are in it.
Yeah, I like that movie. That's pretty good.
I love The Outsiders. And off the top of my head, there's a bunch of them.
That's like with the greasers, right?
Stay golden, pony. Stay golden.
Yeah. That's a great movie. All right, your favorite book?
Man, well, I say this one a lot. It is the Bible. It's probably the best one for knowledge wise, but just non-Christian, just regular book. I have read the greatest salesman in the world.
Oh, Og Mandino?
Og Mandino.
Yeah, man. I got that book.
I probably read that one, multiple times. If you were on an old sales team of mine, I used to pick up the book and read it to my whole sales team at 8 a.m. at the top of my lungs on a 60 person sales floor. So that's probably one of my all-time favorites.
Awesome. Tell me about your secret getaway. Where do you go when you need to chill out?
Well, smoking a cigar is probably, regardless of where I am, if I can find time to get away and smoke a cigar, a couple buddies, just talking, that's probably my best. With my wife, anywhere in the beach, we've been to, a lot of South American places, and we went to our honeymoon, and we went to Cabo, and we went to Cozumel. We've done,
Nice.
Puerto Vallarta. So we've done a lot of South American beaches. That's probably, with my wife, that's probably it.
Sweet. What's your favorite morning activity?
Recently read Hal Elrod's book.
The Morning Miracle or Miracle Morning?
Yeah. Did you know he was a Cutco sales guy too?
I've heard people mention it on the show at least 5 times in the last.
Shout out to Vector and Cutco again, because he was a former sales rep right around the time that I sold too. He crushed it back then. But that's the morning. It's meditation, gratitude, silence. I need to get the exercise on, which I don't do a lot of. But that morning activity, that's probably it. It's getting a coffee, do a little, writing down your goals. What do you want to accomplish today? Little meditation, prayer, gratitude. It's a great process.
All right, cool. Just 3 more questions. Favorite personal development or real estate course?
Right now, I'm in apartmenteducators.com. I was a student. Now I'm a coach, and man, they've got a good solid program. So I think that's for the multifamily syndication side, pretty specific. They're pretty money.
Awesome, man. You're a part of it. That's very cool. All right, your favorite aspect of multifamily investing?
It's absolutely the teamwork, the team mentality side of it. I had a successful professional IT career in sales, had a lot of success. Our best run was $5 million in a year. In a course of about 4 to 5 years, we went to $57 million a year in acquisition. And the reason we had all the success was we had an amazing team. In the multifamily, I've been able to transition or leverage that experience into multifamily, which is just if you get the best possible team around you, whatever deficiency you have, if you have a team of really great individuals, you're going to have a qualified check team. Everyone's a stud. So, I think as long as the market's good and the deal is good, if you have the right team, man, that's what I like most about the multifamily investing.
Cool, man. We'll leave it off at that with the lightning round. That's a great answer, man. I appreciate you entertaining me on that. I have a couple of questions real quick before we wrap up. So one of the things that is interesting about your story is your 401k investing. You said that you had wrapped up some of your money from corporate America or from your sales background into a self-directed retirement account. And
Yep.
I wanted to ask you about this unrelated business income tax. Is it affecting you at all, or is it that the cost segregation is affecting your taxes in such a way with the bonus depreciation that it doesn't even make a difference? Because I have a couple of people, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Damian Lupo, that talks about, hey, instead of doing a self-directed investment retirement account, you can do a QRP, which is a qualified retirement plan. Do you have any insight into this? What has been your experience in using your self-directed 401k?
So yeah, you have UBIT taxes, right? But you avoid capital gains taxes. So they're not higher than capital gains taxes. So I'm kind of like, I just throw it to the wind, so to speak. If I'm not going to get taxed on capital gains, I wasn't able to invest or pull that out without a penalty, and I have it in there, then that UBIT tax is not a big factor for me. The cost segregation study, you do have the accelerated depreciation and all that, but that affects more on your cash side. On my IRA, it's still a K1, you still provide it. The UBIT taxes are, it's just something that I deal with, but it's not a crazy percentage. It's not going to keep me from investing it, that's for sure. But I started a solo 401k. Someone has told me about the qualified retirement plan. So if you have a corporation set up, and I'm not a lawyer or
I'm just curious,
either, right? Just kind of talking about the education that I've gone through. If you have your own corporation set up, C Corp, S Corp, that kind of thing, you can create a QRP, which is qualified retirement plan. And instead of paying yourself W-2 income and getting taxed on it, people avoid that double taxation part of it. You can put it into a QRP. And your QRP is your own retirement plan, and you can invest that in real estate. I'm not sure if that has UBIT taxes or not either.
It does not. I know that it
I've
does
heard
not.
that what an EQRP is what I saw on like Dustin Hendrickson's, response to one of my LinkedIn was, hey, that avoids UBIT tax altogether. And I haven't really played around with it a whole lot. This is really, if coming back to me, 2018 is when I started passively investing. So I've only had to deal with 1 year of taxes. My first investment in 2019 is the only one, and I haven't done my taxes this year. So I'm like, well, it's a small percentage. It doesn't keep me from moving forward anyways. I think when you start looking at the dollars, you could probably start to weigh out, hey, is it better this way? Is it better that way? I paid a few grand. I have to pay a couple grand every year to keep up with the solo 401k. So, you got to factor that stuff in. You probably have to do the same with the QRP, factor that money in and kind of weigh that thing out. I'm of the mindset where, man, I had to invest it. There's an opportunity now. I was not going to let UBIT taxes, which I knew were not greater than capital gains taxes, which I probably at that time would have pulled it out penalty if I had to at that time, just to get in the deal.
If anyone's curious on that, check out our episode with Damian Lupo, who talks about the QRP and what he refers to as the EQRP, the enhanced QRP.
Yep.
But anyways, I wanted to ask you one or two more questions before we wrap up. But real quick, explain to the audience how they can get a hold of you. What is the best way to reach out to you?
Absolutely. If you want to go to my website, there's a specific landing page. You can put your contact information there. We can set up a time. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to talk with people about their goals. Website is 5tcre.com/invest. So that's our company, 5tcre.com/invest. And you guys can also email me, Abel, ABEL, at 5tcre.com.
Let's finish off the show with the topic of raising capital. Tell us about your first capital raise, what you learned from it, and then we'll end off with maybe any tips that you have for people that are learning raising capital.
Got it.
Or anything.
Some items to kind of help future capital raisers was I started early. So I started, quote unquote, raising capital like 6 or 7 months before I was in my first deal. Before I even had an invitation to be a general partner, what I did was I used my existing investment. I was a limited partner once, twice. My wife was in another one. And that's what I used. And I used that investment summary. And I said, hey, man, I'm invested in this. I put $50K in through IRA, Here's my return. Here's what I'm doing. If you're ever interested in this, let me know. And at that time, I was saying, because I'll introduce you to the guy leading the deals, because I wasn't a partner. I just said, hey, man, take you to lunch, whatever. So I was providing value to my partner, right? But anyways, I did that. Some of them took me up on it. Some of them had lunch, some of them didn't. Anyways, the people that I was talking to, more than not, there were people asking me, like, you got in a 128 unit apartment complex. How did you do that? And, maybe they thought I owned the whole thing. And I go, I don't know the whole thing. I own just a little slice. Mm-hmm. But this is what I did. And here's how my money's doubling. Here's the tax benefit. Here's the capital gains shelter that I have in an IRA. My money never doubled in 5 years without me feeding it, my 401k, right? So I was like, okay, so I was explaining all of that. And I did that once, twice, 3 times over the 6 or 7 months before my first deal. So that's what helped me, I think, overcome some of that fears. I was already doing it. I didn't have to say, okay, put 50K in, here's the bank routing numbers and the wiring instructions, send your money. But everything else was already there. And had my website, had already started talking about it. I was taking a lot of education, like I mentioned. So all of those things were the repetition that you needed. And this is back from my old Cutco Vector days, was if you have a presentation and you're going to go present it to people, you should role play and you should say it out loud 30, 40 times. And I mean, that's what I did. So I would role play and talk with my friends and family, and, they were my role players. But some of those people didn't get in on the first deal. They didn't get in on the second deal. Then, a year later, they're like, you're still doing that? Yeah. And maybe they just wanted to feel out, how we were doing. And,
with it, man.
And I stick with it. Yeah. So put my list together, put the dollar amounts, start to qualify who's accredited, who's not accredited. Not because I, would ask them those specific, but I would tell them what a C deal is, 506C, what a 506C the difference between sophisticated, non-accredited, and you explain those things, and they go, "Oh, I think I'm accredited." And I go, "Hey man, good job, good, great work," right?
Yeah,
Start
man.
to qualify it out and ask them if in the future they were interested. So, the first one was like 7 months leading up into the process. And at the time, it was great. I think I raised, $250,000 on the first deal, 750 on the second, and doing a million plus on the third. So, it was a good 12 months doing a couple $1 million, and I was
Yeah,
excited
man.
about raising the capital and
That's
then doing all the other
that's
things.
really good advice. All right, so cool getting to know you, man. We're gonna have to touch base afterwards because we won't have time after the show today. But I really enjoyed meeting you. I definitely look forward to talking some more, creating a deeper relationship with you. Thank you again for coming on the show. Enjoy the rest of your day, Abel.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, Ruben. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, take care, brother.
Appreciate all your hard work. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I'm not in a scarcity mindset. There's enough for everybody.